you're a business owner, it doesn't matter what kind of business you own, I'm about to teach you something about how you think that will save you so much money, save you so many decisions. It's a psychology that other business owners are leveraging on top of you and you have no idea. Most of the time, when I talk about things on this channel, it's insights on how you can make more money. And this is a way, if you actually take what I'm about to go over, you can make a lot of money using the psychology I'm about to break down. But today's purpose behind the video is to teach you a psychology that people are leveraging on you so that you can save yourself from investing in things that might not help you. And so you can understand why some consulting offers, some masterminds look as sexy as they do. I think today will probably be a video that you hopefully watch and think to yourself like, wow, this thing that I'm considering spending 10, 20, 50, $100,000 on, I have no interest in spending it anymore because now I understand how they were marketing and how it was just leveraging a hardwire that I have in me. And now that I know that, now that I have the understanding of that psychology, I don't want to spend that money anymore because I actually don't think it'll help me. That's my goal for today. If you end up using this piece of psychology, that's awesome. There's a lot of strength behind it as long as you're using it for good purposes. But today, I hope, is one of the most powerful videos I've made yet. Let's roll intro. If you don't know who I am, a quick backstory is that I have a portfolio of companies that work with online businesses doing anywhere from 7 to 8 figures a year. I've had the blessings of working with some of the biggest guys in the space, and I love business. I love working with high-level business owners on growing their companies, and this is something that I've seen and implemented into businesses without ever realizing I was doing it. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just put a very simple phrase on something, and it completely changes your perception of that. Really cool tangent / side note, there is a direct correlation between language and intelligence. The more languages you can speak, the more intelligent you can be, because different languages allow you to think in different ways. There are things you can say, expressions had in Spanish or French that you can't translate to English. And so if you can only think in one way, one angle with one language, then you're actually limiting the amount of ways that you can think about solving a problem. So language is incredibly correlated to intelligence, to problem solving. If you think about psychology, and I'm not a huge fan of how psychology is taught in university, but if you think about what they're doing, they're putting titles or names to different types of thinking or different disorders that people might have. Because once you title something or identify something, it's a lot easier to fix it. It's actually what Hormozi talks about in the closure framework. Ironically, we're going to talk about that in a second. It's what Hormozi talks about with identifying a problem, labeling. The closure framework, the L is labeling a problem, putting language to the problem so that it's more finite instead of infinite. And today, that's what we're going to do with one very simple marketing strategy that everyone's leveraging on top of you, which is the law of simplicity. In short, anytime someone starts marketing, unconsciously, they make the decision of whether they market simply or with complexity. And what that means, realistically, is you have simple marketing and you have complex. Hear me out, this is gonna be so simple and so almost kindergarten-esque, but it's gonna save you so much money. It's gonna make you a lot of money too if you use this the right way. I want you to first think about the people who bring people to the online business space. I'm saying online because that's my world, but this could be any industry. Think about the people who help people start businesses. They almost always follow the rule of simplicity. Really, anyone who's B2C or BizOp always follows, for the most part, there are anomalies, but they almost always follow the rule of simplicity, the law of simplicity, meaning they make things sound very simple. One of my favorite lines that I used to use when I was working in the BizOp space was, it's simple, but not easy. Marketing with simplicity is what makes having a business, owning a business, seem achievable. If someone talked about the complexity of business ownership to someone who had no business, then they would think to themselves, why would I start this? This sounds miserable. This sounds terrible. And so what marketers do when they're helping people get into the business world is they market the simplicity of the model or the vehicle or the business. These guys are your Hormozis, your Iman Gadzhis, your Tony Robbins, your Dave Ramseys. And I want to stress, this is incredibly important, that these guys all have, to my understanding, I know for a fact Iman does, but all of them have amazing products. And all of them do very good things and teach very good principles. If Dave Ramsey wasn't teaching people how to save cash, I think the entire world, specifically the States, would have way less money. I think he does so much power for the middle class of the US. Tony Robbins has done so much good for the mentality and the psychology of so many Americans in the world. And I say America, of course, because that's where I'm from. In the last couple of years, Iman has literally changed the entire landscape for business ownership. There are more business owners now in the world than there ever has been, to my understanding, in history, and to a large part, that's Iman. And I think that's a massively beneficial thing to the world. Hormozi has been doing a great job getting people to start businesses or grow in their careers to the point where they can start businesses, helping young businesses grow. Hormozi's been doing great work, but if you think about what all of them do, they all make things sound very simple. I actually think there's a very important note to make here, which is something called the buyer's pocket. So if you've ever spent time in sales, then you would know what the buyer's pocket is. But in short, there's a window where buyers buy. And that window has two ends. There are two ways that you can miss that window or that pocket. Way number one is that if you're on a sales call, or if you're selling something via funnel with VSLs and such, you can make something sound too easy. You can make it sound too achievable, but you can make it sound just hard enough to where you have people who buy in that buyer's pocket toward the left side. But half the buyer's pocket is filled with simplicity buyers, meaning people who think that the model they're buying into is simple enough for them to do it, but they still need guidance, they still need help. The right side is complexity. Complexity normally comes in your B2B. Pretty much everyone following me at this point is a business owner, and so this is gonna be very applicable to you guys. This is what 99% of masterminds coaching offers after you started a business. This is like every investment I've personally made after the very first investment that got me into the space. And everyone else I know, it almost always comes from complexity purchases, because the marketing for this, I'll be honest, I've always personally enjoyed this marketing. This is a type of marketing that I actually can see myself doing, but it is marketing through complexity. It's making something sound harder than it really is. The people who have done this very well, number one, I loved Nick. If you ever watched these, your VSLs have been fantastic to watch. Nick Cosman's a genius when it comes to complexity marketing. You also have guys like Serge Chitari. I don't know what Serge does, but I've seen his VSLs and they're solid. There's a company, I don't know who started it, named Client Ascension. If you're in the online world, I don't know who started it, but I have seen their VSLs. The way to recognize all of this, just to zoom out for a second, is that you can tell someone is marketing with simplicity when they have, Hermosi technically is an oddball to this, but they have 4K production. The editing is just top class. And so 4K production, high-end cameras, editing, a lot of the times this is where you see slide decks or some kind of whiteboard. Simplicity marketing, because it goes to B2C and B2B, it has to be able to capture dopamine. It has to be something that draws people in and takes their attention away from Netflix or other things that they can consume. Because simplicity marketing is focused on the B2C or BizOps space, you're fighting for attention with Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Video, and you're fighting against all the YouTube videos that have nothing to do with business. And so you have to an extent, be more infotainment than information. Versus complexity marketing is the exact opposite. You're talking to business owners now. You're talking to people who at least think that they want to watch the boring stuff. Marketers who use complexity are normally using Loom. It's usually a G-Doc or maybe a G-Sheet. It looks more raw. There's not really a fancy production. Normally it's just them at their desk. There's almost never any kind of editing involved. There's never slide decks, because slide decks aren't perceived as valuable in complexity marketing. It's not infotainment at this point. The goal is almost to seem boring. The people who consume complexity marketing are looking for like that boring person that holds the secrets that the simple marketer didn't have. What's ironic, just as FYI, is that in my experience, the people who use simplicity marketing are normally much smarter than the people who actually market with complexity. But the perception is that the complex marketers know more than the simple marketers. It's actually backwards, but the perception is just so good. It actually takes way more effort, way more skill, and way more talent to market something that has complexity with simplicity. It takes way more effort to take a complex idea and simplify it to something that's easily consumable than it is to take a complex idea and show the complexity of it. But here's the secret sauce. Here's why complexity marketing works so well. It's because you don't want to buy the same thing twice. Almost everyone I know that has a business started from some kind of simple marketing. Someone that brought them into the online business world or the business world, whether it's Tom Ferry, Iman Gadzhi, Ty Lopez, Dan Kennedy, Russell Brunson. There's always some kind of simple marketing that makes people think that the thing is achievable, and then they get in, and once they get in, they don't want to do the same thing again. They don't want to buy the same thing again. So if you bought from someone who had 4K video and they had high-end production, then naturally, because you've already bought from that, you think you have to do the opposite to get to the next level. You think, no joke, this is how we're programmed. You think that if you spend $1,000 on the information that gets you started, you actually have this hardwired into you. You think you have to spend more money to learn more. You actually believe at this point that $1,000 will not teach you the things that will get you to the next level. You think it has to be more expensive. There are a couple of reasons that B2B programs are more expensive than B2C. Number one, obviously business owners have more money. Number two is it is leveraged information, meaning when you apply the higher end information, it does make you more money, so it should be more expensive. But a truth to the matter too is that a lot of business owners that I know who have really good products want to sell them for less, but when they tried selling them for less, they didn't sell because the perceived value was lower. And the reason the perceived value was lower was because they were too close, if not less, than the biz op that the person originally signed up for. So if you spent $1,000 and that taught you how to make $10K a month, then you will not believe, your psychology won't allow you to believe that $500 will teach you how to make $100,000 a month. You believe that the information that teaches you how to make this has to be proportionally more than what you paid before to make $10,000. In this case, if $1,000 taught you how to make $10K, then you would believe that you have to spend $10,000 to make $100K. Or 20 or 30. You believe that the next investment has to be more because it's going to make you more money. It's a false premise. Naturally it has truth to it because of course higher level information does cost more because it can make you more money, but it doesn't need to be more expensive than the investment that you made beforehand. The one thing I'm trying to get you to understand is I'm not saying that you shouldn't spend money trying to make more money or that you shouldn't spend more money. I've spent well over $100,000 on education in the business world. What I'm trying to say is the psychology that I fell into, that everyone falls into, is number one, I thought I had to spend more than I had spent before. I thought that every single time I spent money investing in information, if it wasn't more expensive than what I had done in the past. Example given, guys, I'm gonna be dropping a program soon that has access to me and my network and program material on how to grow businesses. It's gonna be a B2B focused company. I don't ever personally see myself operating in the B2C or BizUp space. It'll be B2B, and the thing to note is that I wanna price it at less than what we're gonna price it at. But when we tested our pricing, the perceived value at the price I wanted to test at was so low that we actually had a higher conversion rate at the higher prices. When I gave a lower investment to give in, I had less conversion because people perceived the value of the information to be less because it was closer to what originally got them in the space in the first place. And so to sell more, to convert more, I had to actually make, because it's a B2B program, I had to make the program more expensive to have a higher conversion rate. I'm not complaining because obviously it's in my own self-interest that I have higher prices, but I want to note how incredibly powerful this psychology is. Perceived value based on price point, based on the investments that we've made in the past. Marketing strategies, meaning looking at people who are using Loom on G-Docs or G-Sheets versus really well done videos, just because we don't want to fall into the same marketing that we fell into before. Our brains are almost trying to defend us against what worked before, and that creates an entirely new angle for people to use to market toward us. Going back, side note, I'm just realizing as I look at this drawing that I didn't talk about how you miss the buyer's market on the far side, the far right, if you will, which is making something sound too impossible or too hard. So the exact opposite. So last note on this, because I feel like I've made this point pretty clear, is that the way to know if someone's using complexity, aside from if they're using a raw editing style, Loom, etc., Miro has been a big one, or any kind of flowchart. This is like your fancy complexity marketing style. One of the sexiest things about this that people fall subject to all the time is numbers. The people who are really good at marketing with complexity are playing with, Nick Hausman used to use equations, and it was brilliant. A lot of the client ascension stuff that I've seen before has spreadsheets talking about CAC to LTV ratios, and they're just plugging in different numbers and making this what seems like a logical argument on paper with complete bullshit numbers. Sorry for the language. The thing to note is that if you're at $100,000, $200,000 a month or less, you still think that you're not growing in business because you're missing one thing. You still think that there's a magic equation or a magic KPI that you need to track or some kind of magical formula to growing business, and there's not. What you see in the businesses doing $500,000 a month is they're very good at doing the simple stuff. My mentor used to tell me, kiss it, keep it stupid simple. And that's because you start in the business world with simple marketing. You go to complexity because it's the sexy new thing. It's the thing that you think you need. And what tends to happen is you get burned by complexity marketing, and you recognize that simple marketing, keep it stupid, simple. You think that complexity marketing is the way to go. And then you come back and realize that simple stuff is the way to go. It always has been, always will be. I hope that there's something you can grab from this video. If not, at least I hope it makes you think about some of the investments you're possibly looking at making. As always, I love you guys much. I will see you in the next video. Until tomorrow, happy hunting.